Violence has once again broken out in Hong Kong after pro-democracy demonstrators attempted to march through the city in defiance of a police ban. Riot police have fired tear gas at protesters and arrested several people. Earlier, thousands had gathered in the centre of the city for the latest anti-government demonstration. Now, authorities had approved that rally as long as participants stayed in one location, but police did warn that they would stop anyone attempting to march.
Amounts of violence, or certainly clashes, between some of the hardcore protesters and the police over recent months. We had a big rally on New Year's Day here in Hong Kong, and Sunday is the first time we've seen tear gas fired since that New Year's Day rally. But certainly we're seeing an increasing clampdown from the police on the go-ahead of these protests and also the number of arrests.
When David Chan joined the Hong Kong police force a few years ago, he never thought that he would see scenes like these. David Chan is not his real name. This was last November when protesters and police clashed for hours on a university campus. Hong Kong police had come under massive attack. And David says it's not only the physical threats that affect morale.
They've been working long hours. They've been blamed, fingers pointed at them. It's very exhausting, both physically and mentally.
This is what he's talking about. Hong Kongers criticizing and often cursing at the police. Many officers are on edge. They've been accused of indiscriminate arrests, beating up subdued protesters and threatening to shoot tear gas into apartments. Videos of alleged police brutality are circulating online. Bystanders who get into arguments with officers risk getting pepper sprayed, a clear violation of the rules as David learned them.
I'm just frustrated because some officers really dislike the protesters, and honestly, they really want to beat them up. But I think this isn't the right mentality. We should be impartial as police officers. We shouldn't take sides.
Apocalyptic images coming out of Australia right now.
There are now 6 fires burning at emergency levels.
The smoke is so intense and so thick it can be seen from space.
2,000 homes have been destroyed.
6 million hectares of land charred.
A staggering toll on the nation's wildlife.
This is just heartbreaking.
Right, keep going.
And in breaking news, there are reports homes have now been lost.
Take shelter as the fire front approaches.
Oh my God, I'm exhausted. I've had no water.
New South Wales will be in a state of emergency from today for the next 7 days.
We have more than 100 fires burning across New South Wales at the moment, and half of them are not contained.
Oh, we've got clock. Go forward. Go.
Narragunda now lies in ruins. 80% of the homes here were destroyed in a firestorm on New Year's Eve. The school, the church, and the store are all gone. For Ash Graham, losing his home was bad enough, but his dog Cozy has been missing since the fire swept in.
I've got left.
No, but this is what he said.
It was there for me when the wife passed away, so yeah. He's my best mate. Literally my best mate. It's my motivation. Gets me out of bed every morning on down days.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a very busy Friday night. And for millions, it has already been a very rough ride home tonight. A monster winter storm is bearing down across much of this country. In fact, more than 100 million Americans under alerts from the Rockies all the way into the Northeast. Drivers facing blinding snow and gusting winds. This is Moorhead, Minnesota right here, where cars are off the highways tonight. A Delta passenger jet sliding off the taxiway at Kansas City Airport. Runways shutting down. More than 4,000 flights canceled or delayed nationwide already. And tonight, news coming in of a deadly avalanche hitting a ski resort near Lake Tahoe. At least one person killed. The storm hitting Chicago tonight, then right into the east, several major cities in the path.
Fresh lake effect snow in Erie, Pennsylvania today. Take a look at that, causing this multi-vehicle accident on I-90. And the Cleveland skyline in some parts hidden by the snow It comes ahead of a new cross-country storm on the way. The forecast in a moment, but first, ABC's Kaylee Hartung with what this week's storm has left behind.
Tonight, lake-effect snow pounding parts of the Great Lakes after that deadly winter storm wreaked havoc for millions. At least 2 people killed, more than 1,300 flights canceled, and hundreds of miles of highways closed as that massive storm kicked up high winds and blinding snow. Cars flipping over on icy roads. In Erie, Pennsylvania, dangerous road conditions leading to a chain reaction crash involving more than a dozen semi-trucks. Several people seriously injured in this 15-car pileup in New York City. Police believed icy road conditions caused the crash. Officials in Minnesota say they've responded to more than 600 crashes since Friday, the storm dumping more than a foot of snow there. In Michigan, heavy snow burying cars, forcing drivers to shovel their way out.
I shoveled for, probably took me about 2 hours.
Hold on.
And take a look at this video from Massachusetts. First responders carefully trying to rescue this terrified dog from a frozen pond.
The weekly protests continue in France as the Yellow Vests took to the streets again this past weekend, and it got ugly. Yet again, French riot police accused of using disproportionate force against demonstrators, like tear gas, batons, some even pinning down a protester and repeatedly punching him. Seems like that becoming all too common after more than 14 months of these marches. 60 people were arrested in Saturday's protests. Will we see police be held accountable for their actions? And conversely, George, if protesters do pose a threat to the police, how would you suggest they handle it?
Well, if you just think for a moment about the trouble there's been in Hong Kong, trouble in Venezuela, trouble in Chile, in Bolivia, and so on. At the very least, these are very big stories. This is a non-story. It has literally been airbrushed out of the international media, with RT as the honorable exception. And the scale of the violence is absolutely horrific. Scores of people have lost their eyes, their eyesight, their limbs. In fact, many scores of people have lost fingers, thumbs, hands as a result of rubber bullet munitions being fired at them, the swinging batons and so on. This is war, Manila, civil war, down on the streets of a major NATO, European Union, capitalist country. This is not normal. It's not normal anywhere in the developed world. And yet in France, these scenes are now virtually an everyday occurrence.
Set up barricades and put burning tires on roads in the country's south and in Baghdad. At least 12 people have been injured by security forces. The ongoing protests began in October over widespread corruption and a lack of public services.
Tonight, blizzard warnings in the upper Midwest. That powerful storm creating whiteout conditions. Vehicles stranded, visibility near zero. This UPS truck jackknifing on Interstate 94 in North Dakota. In Omaha, Nebraska, drivers struggling for traction.
This car continuing to have issues as it makes its way up the hill.
First responders racing to accident scenes.
We had to extricate that person, removing the roof of the vehicle.
In icy glaze covering this Kansas State Troopers cruiser. In Kansas City, Missouri, Delta Flight 1114 bound for Detroit sliding off the taxiway.
Captain came on and said, "You're not going to believe this, but we hit a patch of ice and somebody's going to have to tow us out of here."
Conditions forcing the airfield to close for a time. Around the country, more than 4,000 flights delayed or canceled. In the west, a deadly avalanche near Lake Tahoe, California.
They are assembling the Nordic rescue team.
Total patient count is 2 at this time.
A 34-year-old man killed and another person seriously hurt at the Alpine Meadows ski resort after more than 2 feet of snow in just 24 hours.
It's been a long time since these cows have felt water drops, and don't they know it, singing in the rain. The stock belonged to Doug Robertson. He's from a drought-stricken property in the Hunter.
Just from a mental point of view, it's just that load starts to lift and you can see the light again and hope that things can improve.
The heavens have opened up across large parts of New South Wales. Dust has turned into puddles. Gloom into joy.
So nice to show water instead of dust and dirt.
Even the far west has had a downpour. Stevens Creek near Broken Hill was flowing fast. Nick Andrews lives nearby and had vowed to only shave when it rained.
It was just torrential downpour, flooded the place really.
The rain has helped on some of the state's many fire grounds too. RFS jackets swapped for raincoats.
It's obviously not going to break a drought, but I think it's a very good morale boost for them, and it's certainly going to help us with firefighting.
Bilpin in the Blue Mountains was hit by a fire front just weeks ago, but the rain created these puddles, not fire hoses.
Hopefully it'll put all this out, which it will, I'd say. So, and then everything will look better around here.
Although rain on burnt ground can create problems.
Particularly over the fire grounds, that the water is just sort of almost repelled by the surface, doesn't soak in at all.
The Weather Bureau says that can lead to a number of issues. Flash floods, landslides, falling trees and ash running off into the water supply. But because it's been so dry, no one's complaining about the rain.
Very excited. Yeah, jumping up and down. Hopefully we get into the areas where there's a bit of fires as well.
And there are still a few more days of rain ahead.